Did you know the king who took an oath to kill all the snakes in the world turns out to be the descendant of the Pandavas, Janamejaya Maharaj. He was a great ruler, but when he found out that his father didn't die naturally but was murdered, he was heartbroken and furious. To take revenge, he decided not only to punish the killer but to destroy the entire serpent clan or Nagavamsh. Was he successful? I'll reveal that soon. But there's something even more interesting. This very act led to the retelling of the Mahabharata. Yes, the epic we all know and love. We have all heard that the Mahabharata was written by the Ved Vyas Maharshi. But have you ever wondered how it came to light? It all began when Janamejaya Maharaj performed the Sarpayag, a grand ritual to avenge his father Parikshit Maharaj's death. But how did King Parikshit die? What's with this revenge story? And how did it lead to the retelling of the Mahabharata? Stay with me till the end to uncover this gripping tale. Namaskaram everyone. I am Visalakshi, a passionate storyteller on a pursuit to introduce the Indian epics and stories to the world. Through this series, I aim to narrate the Mahabharata in a captivating and engaging way so that everyone can immerse in the world of the Mahabharata and understand its essence and learn the valuable lessons it holds. So if you find my explanation interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the Visalakshiverse to learn the Mahabharata and many more incredible Indian stories. Welcome to the episode 1 of the Mahabharata series, narrated by Visalakshi. Janamejaya Maharaj was a powerful king and warrior. He upheld the Pandavas' legacy and ruled Hastinapuram with his wisdom and strength. Under his rule, the kingdom flourished and the people lived in happiness and prosperity. One day, while Janamejaya Maharaj was holding the court, a man entered the royal hall. He carried an aura of immense power and looked like a great sage. The king, as a gesture of respect, welcomed him and offered him a golden chair to sit and asked, Mahatma, please let us know who you are and the purpose of your visit. The sage introduced himself as Uddhank and said, Maharaj, I heard many great things about you, and today I have witnessed your greatness. I feel blessed to meet a king as noble as you. I have come to ask for a favor and hope you'll uphold your word. Of course, Mahatma, please let us know what you seek. The king replied, I seek revenge, Uddhank said. The court was shocked. The king asked in a stunned tone, Revenge? Uddhank replied, Yes, Maharaj, there is an evil king who committed a lot of sins, wronged me terribly, and hindered my Guru Dakshina journey. But more than that, Maharaj, he was the one who killed your father, Parikshit Maharaj. Janamejaya was stunned. His face turned red with anger and grief. He turned and looked at his mantri. The mantri bowed his head and said, Yes, Maharaj, it's true. Overwhelmed with emotion, the king said, Mahamantri, how could a great king like Parikshit Maharaj struck down by Takshak? Why did he have to kill such an honorable and selfless soul? Please tell me. Mahamantri began narrating the tale. Parikshit Maharaj was the only son of Abhimanyu and Uttara, the grandson of the Arjuna and Pandavas. After the dawn of Kali Yuga, Yudhishthir made Parikshit king before leaving to the tapasya along with his brothers and wife. Parikshit Maharaj ruled righteously, following dharma, and his people were content under his rule. One day, the king went hunting. In his pursuit, he lost track of time and wandered too far alone without any ministers or soldiers. The sun was high in the sky and the afternoon heat left him exhausted and thirsty. Eventually, he came across an ashram, which turned out to be the ashram of Shamika Maharshi. Inside, he found Maharshi in deep meditation. The king greeted him respectfully and asked for water at least 13 times. But the Maharshi remained silent. This lack of response angered the king. In frustration, the king said, I have been trying my best to keep you all safe, and yet, when I ask for water, you remain silent. In his fury, the king picked up a dead snake lying nearby and placed it around the Maharshi's neck, calling it a punishment for not treating him with respect. He then left in search of his men. Later, realizing his mistake, the king confided in his ministers, deeply regretting his disrespectful act. Just then, a young sage came running towards them. He greeted the king respectfully and introduced himself as the disciple of Shamika Maharshi and narrated what had happened after the king's departure. When Shamika Maharshi's son Shrungi returned to the ashram and saw the snake around his father's neck, he was filled with both anger and sorrow, believing his father had been wrong. Shrungi cursed the one who insulted him. He cursed the king, saying, "The person who did this to my father, who has never wronged anyone, will die in 7 days by Takshak's venom." When Shamika Maharshi awoke from his meditation, he was heartbroken to learn of this curse. He begged Shrungi to revoke it, but his son lacked the power to undo it. Maharshi then sent me to inform you of this tragic fate. This sudden event shocked us all. Slowly, the entire kingdom learned of this news, and panic spread among the people. We decided to do everything we could to keep the king alive and help escape the curse. Orders were immediately passed to construct a one-pillar fort, and we stationed numerous soldiers around it to ensure the king's safety. Additionally, we summoned renowned doctors skilled in treating snake's venom and brought in experienced snake charmers. We did everything possible to protect the king. We requested the king to stay inside the one-pillar fort and arranged for continuous bhajans, harikathas, Mahadev kathas to keep him calm and prevent anxiety. 6 days passed by without any incidents and everything seemed normal. On the 7th day, we were extremely vigilant, ensuring that not even a single insect could enter the fort. By afternoon, a few security guards approached me with news about a man who had gone to forest to collect firewood and returned with an unusual report. I rushed to him and asked, "I heard you have some news. Please share it with me clearly without any fear." He replied, "Yes, Mahamantri. This morning I went to the forest to gather firewood and I saw something unbelievable. I was fortunate to survive, barely escaping the clutches of the Takshak's venom." I was stunned by his words and asked him to confirm. "Takshak's venom? Are you sure?" He replied, "Yes, Mahamantri. It was indeed Takshak's venom. I was burned by it, but a great man saved me and relieved me from its effects." I urged him, "Please narrate the incident clearly. I'll assure you, you will be rewarded." He responded, "I don't need any reward, but please save Maharaj, that's enough for me." Then he began narrating the entire incident. I went to the forest to collect firewood as I do every day. I found a big strong tree and hoping to get good firewood, I climbed up the tree. While examining the branches to decide which ones would be suitable, I noticed a man with dark skin. He looked fine, but something about him made me uneasy. His demeanor seemed suspicious, and there was a strange negative energy around him. It felt as though he was waiting for someone. Soon another man appeared. He seemed to be confident and radiant. He seemed to be in a hurry, heading somewhere. The suspicious man stopped him. "Swami, who are you? And where are you going in such a hurry?" The radiant man said, "I'm Kashyap. I'm heading to Hastinapuram as I have something urgent to do there." The suspicious man asked, "Why are you going to Hastinapuram, Swami?" Kashyap replied, "Recently our king was cursed by a sage to die from Takshak's venom, right? That's why I'm going there." The suspicious man questioned, "What will you do there? It will be a time of great anxiety and tension for them. They may not even have the capacity to receive you properly." Kashyap responded calmly, "I'm not going there to seek help. I'm going to protect the king from Takshak's venom using my Sanjeevani Mahamantram." Sanjeevani Mahamantram or Sanjeevani Vidya refers to the sacred knowledge that can bring the dead back to life. The suspicious man said, "Swami, I think you underestimate the power of Takshak. These simple mantras won't work against his venom. You should go back and save your pride." Kashyap replied, "You're mistaken. The Sanjeevani Mahamantram I use is incredibly powerful. It can neutralize even the deadliest venom in the world. Takshak's venom is no exception." The suspicious man smirked and said, "So you are confident you can save the king?" Kashyap answered, "Wait until this time tomorrow, and you will witness its power yourself. Now please, excuse me. It's already late and I must reach Hastinapuram." As Kashyap stepped forward, the dark-skinned man blocked his path and told, "I am Takshak. Let me show you my power. I will poison this tree and every living thing depending on it. The flowers, birds, everything will perish. Stop me if you can." With that, Takshak transformed into a massive snake. I was sitting on the tree and was terrified. desperately looking for a way to escape. But before I could, Takshak bit the tree. In no time, the tree began to wither, and I too was burned by the Takshak's venom effects as I clung to the branches. Then suddenly I regained consciousness and found myself sitting exactly the same way as I had before. Confused, I quickly looked down to see what was happening. To my surprise, I saw Takshak bowing before Kashyap and saying, "Forgive me for my disrespectful behavior. I underestimated your power and spoke ill of you. I now realize that you're far more powerful than I am. However, I must tell you, you cannot save the king as you did with the tree. Defying a sage's curse is not the right thing to do." Takshak then closed his eyes, and suddenly piles of gold, diamonds, and immense wealth appeared before Kashyap. "This wealth is far more anything than Parikshit Maharaj can offer you. Please accept it and return," Takshak said. Kashyap, after hearing this, closed his eyes and seemed to be deep in thought. And after a moment he replied, "If this is written in destiny, then I can't change it. I do not wish to go against the will of the Creator. What is meant to happen will happen." He accepted the wealth and turned to leave. I wanted to plead with Kashyap ji to help Seva Maharaj. I thought he might change his mind if I told him the king could offer him even more wealth. But I was too afraid of Takshak. Helplessly, I remained hidden in the tree. After a while, Takshak appeared lost in thought and then suddenly disappeared. As soon as he was gone, I climbed down the tree and ran here to inform you of everything that happened, said the man. Hearing the man's account, I rewarded him generously and ordered the security around the king to be strengthened even further. I narrated the details to the other ministers, and after a thorough discussion, I issued strict orders. Soldiers were instructed not to let anyone new enter the kingdom. I also commanded that no one should roam around the fort, and anyone behaving suspiciously was to be arrested immediately. To ensure the king's safety, we even appointed psychologists capable of reading minds to monitor anyone working in or entering the fort. I personally supervised all activities around the king. As the sun began to set, I prayed fervently to the gods, hoping to save the king. Suddenly, the king's assistant approached me, saying, "Maharaj has asked for you." I rushed to the king, only to find out that several men standing near him with a basket of fruits. Alarmed, I raised my voice, saying, "Who are you? How did you get in here? Maharaj, please don't touch anything." But it seemed the king was in a trance. He didn't heed my words. Instead, he picked one of the fruits and said, "I have never seen such a fragrant fruit. Thank you for bringing. I'll surely reward you." As he brought the fruit close to his nose to smell it, a bug crawled out, transformed into a massive snake, and it's none other than Takshak, and bit the king. The man with the fruit basket then revealed their true identity, saying, "We are from the Nagavamsh. We came here as Takshak asked us to. Let the king rest in peace." With that, they vanished. Takshak disappeared too. Despite all our efforts and precautions, we failed to save the king. He lost his life right before my eyes within seconds, leaving me utterly helpless, said the Mahamantri, his voice choked with tears. "Maharani ji, your mother then instructed all of us to never mention this incident to you, as you were just a child then, and knowing about it could have deeply impacted you. That's why we chose to remain silent. Over the years, we gradually moved on from the tragedy, but we always saw Maharaj's reflection in you," Mahamantri concluded. The court fell silent with grief. After hearing the Mahamantri's story, Janamejaya became furious. Shaking with rage, he stood up and declared, "I will not let Takshak, the one who bribed Kashyap and killed my father, go unpunished. Nor will I spare the Nagas, snakes, who aided him. They are a danger to humanity. I will not allow a single snake remain alive on this earth. This way, your revenge will also be fulfilled," he said, turning to Uddank. Then he ordered Mahamantri to prepare his army for battle against the Naglok. Uddank replied, "There is no need for that, Maharaj. Instead, we can perform the Sarpayag. By doing so, all the Nagas in the world will be summoned here and destroyed by the Yagnahuti, which means the Yagna fire. This way, we can take our revenge, eliminate the threat of their dangerous snakes from the world, and also gain the Yagnafal. Janamejaya agreed, saying, Mahatma, I entrust you with the responsibility of overseeing the Sarpayag, and please guide me through it with your wisdom. Uddank replied, It will be my honor, Maharaj. Janamejaya Maharaj released funds and resources to conduct the grand Sarpayag. The arrangements were nothing short of magnificent. Experts well versed in their respective fields and scriptures were appointed to construct the Yajna-vatika. The grounds of Hastinapuram were prepared to host this monumental event, and almost everyone in the kingdom gathered to witness it, eager to avenge their former king's death. Many powerful sages and Maharshis were invited, including the Vedavyas Maharshi, the author of Mahabharata, who attended with his disciples. A Vastu Shastragna, an expert in the Indian system of architecture and design, who supervised the construction of the Yajna Vedika, which means the stage or the platform where the yajna is conducted, approached the king and said, I have thoroughly examined everything and there are no flaws in the Yajna Vedika. However, something feels off. I sense that this Sarpayag might be interrupted by someone. But this is just a prediction. It may or may not happen. So the king didn't pay much attention and got carried away with other matters. The king, blinded by his confidence, ignored the warning. But as we know, destiny has a way of making its presence known. Remember, sometimes small signs can change everything. So stay aware of the signs around you. Coming back, Janamejaya Maharaj was eagerly waiting to witness Takshak's end. However, both Uddank and Janamejaya Maharaj underestimated the power of Takshak and the Nagas. Takshak and the Nagas were no ordinary beings. There were many powerful Nagas like Vasuki and Ananta who had performed great deeds and shared strong ties with the influential beings. One of Takshak's closest allies was none other than the Indra, the king of the Swarg heaven. Upon Takshak's request, Indra agreed to protect him. So Takshak immediately fled to Swarg and took refuge there. Finally, the Sarpayag began. Janamejaya Maharaj and his wife Vapusta Devi took the Yajna Diksha, initiating the ritual under the guidance of the rishis. The atmosphere grew intense as the rishis chanted mantras, each concluding with Swaha. The powerful chants began to weaken the Nagas, who were irresistibly drawn to the Homagni, sacred fire. Snakes of various kinds, red, white, two-headed, and other dangerous species were pulled into the fire and burned. The scene grew terrifying as countless serpents met their end. Even Takshak started to feel the immense pull of the Yajna. Unable to withstand it, he transformed into his serpent form and clung to Indra for safety. At this critical moment, a young rishi entered the Yajna-vatika. His calm and radiant presence immediately drew everyone's attention. He greeted the rishis and king with humility and said, Maharaj, I am honored to witness such a noble and a powerful ruler. I have heard of your strength and generosity, and you truly surpass those praises. Kings like Dashrath Maharaj and Ramchandra Maharaj performed great yagnas, but this Sarpayag is unparalleled in power. May you achieve all that you desire. Flattered by the rishi's words, Janamejaya Maharaj wished to reward him. He offered him a boon and asked him to state his wish. However, the rishis suggested it would be better to wait until the yagna was completed. Soon after, Janamejaya Maharaj grew impatient and asked, why hasn't Takshak appeared yet? The rishis discovered that Takshak was hiding in Indra's palace. Enraged, the king declared, if anyone dares to protect Takshak, even if it's Indra himself, they too will burn in Homagni. The rishis then chanted Sahendra Takshakaya Swaha, which means let Indra and Takshak burn in the sacred fire. Terrified, Indra abandoned Takshak and fled. Takshak, left powerless and alone, was pulled towards the Yajna Vedika. Just as Takshak was about to fall into the fire, the young rishi stopped Takshak with his power and said, Maharaj, please stop this Sarpayag right now. This is the only boon I ask from you. No one expected this from the Rishi. Shocked, Janamejaya said, "Ask for anything else, but not this, Maharshi." The young Rishi responded, "Maharaj, you are known for your kindness and generosity. This violence against the Nagas is not a righteous path. I humbly request you to stop this yagna and honor your word." The Rishi's heartfeltly made Janamejaya pause and reflect. He found himself at a difficult crossroads between his desire for revenge and the promise he had made. The Rishi's words began to make sense, and he realized there was wisdom in them. Turning to the other sages, he sought their counsel. They nodded in agreement. After a moment of deep thought, Janamejaya Maharaj made the difficult decision to stop the Sarpayag, bringing an end to the fairy ritual. Takshak apologized and quickly left the place. But remember this name, Takshak. We will hear it again in the future episodes. He was the one who gave the Pandavas a tough time on many occasions. After everything calmed down, the king rewarded the Vastu Shastrajna who predicted the events before and respectfully bid farewell to the Rishis. He requested the Vedvyas Maharshi to narrate the Mahabharata as he was curious to learn about the great epic and about his ancestors. Maharshi felt happy, blessed his grandson, and said, "My disciple Vaishampayana will stay here and narrate the Mahabharata to you." So few Maharshis stayed there to listen Mahabharata. Later, Vaishampayana narrated the epic to the audience, one of whom was Suta Maharshi. Later, Suta Maharshi shared the story with Shaunaka Maharshi and his group of sages. And that's how we all got to know Mahabharata. And the young Rishi who had stopped the Sarpayag returned to his mother and his uncle Vasuki, the Naga king. Sounds fishy, right? Yes, it is. Vasuki was the mastermind who planned the things way before and saved Nagas. But more than half of the Nagas died. Why didn't they stop the Yagna earlier? And who exactly is this Vasuki? And how did the Nagas acquire their power and connections? Stay tuned to find out in the next episode. So, how's the episode 1? Let me know in the comment section. A lot of mysteries to uncover with more exciting stories. I can't wait to share them all with you. If you like the video, please hit like and share it with your friends and family. Subscribe to the Visalakshi verse for captivating stories from the Mahabharata and beyond, because every tale has wisdom, wonder, and a connection to our roots waiting to be discovered.